All films of today use technology like computer-generated imagery, CGI for short, to seamlessly blend reality and fiction together, from superhero films to historical period pieces, though none of them do it as well as director Bong Joon-ho. Instead of using CGI as a mere tool like most filmmakers do, he literally uses it to create new environments and creatures that you can feel for. For instance, in 2017's film Okja, the title character is completely computer generated. Or in his film The Host, the main monster was, again, computer generated. In no means does any of the CGI in either of these films match up to the level of detail in movies such as The Jungle Book or The Life of Pi, but somehow what they lack in detail they make up in heart or terror. In Okja, you immediately begin to fall in love with this fictional CGI character when it's first introduced in the forests of South Korea. You can tell from the start the story will be about the eternal bond between Misha and the computer-generated Okja.
생물이 없는 스토피인데도 같이 계속 있으니까 진짜 생물처럼 정든다는 것도 신기하고.
Once CGI was placed over the fake limbs and heads, or stuffies, you can feel the real connection between Misha and Okja. This bond allows the director to set up the quest that Misha must go on when Okja is taken by the Miranda Corporation, and lets the audience empathize with her journey. Well, in The Host, CGI is a fundamental component of the film, but in a different way than it was used in Okja. The CGI in Okja gives life to the fictitious animal that the audience will care for and root for throughout the film. But instead, in The Host, it's a computer-generated monster that is meant to scare the audience. After 12 years, however, the CGI doesn't hold up as well as it did in 2006, but it's still as effective because Bong Joon-ho's directing, which limits your perspective of the beast to what's akin to how Spielberg presents the shark in Jaws, only showing the fin and rarely ever showing the entire mechanical shark. In The Host, Bong Joon-ho does the same and shows very little of the beast, showing only its feet and its tail, but not the full terror of the monster usually. Only a few scenes you see the face and the full body of the monster. In both films, Bong Joon-ho uses CGI expertly, directing with only $11 million as a budget for The Host and a $50 million budget for Okja. He's also able to subvert genre tropes and include very present themes and elements in both films from the 21st century. Okja shows the insight into the all-too-true brutality of the animals in the meat industry and slaughterhouses, and then in The Host, the director shows the monster is created by humanity's own toxic waste. What I find interesting about both of these films is that the American characters are either portrayed as somewhat evil, clueless, or obviously a little bit misguided. In the United States history books says America was protecting South Korea from the evil communists during the Korean War, and they stay there to protect South Korea from North Korea if they ever decide to attack. I mean, there's a whole TV show centered around the Korean War, MASH. So it seems to me that Joon-ho's perspective differs from what, well, the US history books tell us. The person who causes the creation of the monster is a lazy American scientist who orders his subordinate to pour toxic chemicals instead of disposing them correctly down the drain and into the river. Not to mention that it's a stereotypical 80s Hollywood theme to have the toxic chemicals create the monster or the villain. The American animal activists aren't portrayed as evil, but rather a bit misguided in their efforts to expose the Miranda Corporation for who they really are. They don't even realize that they're disobeying Misha's wishes about Okja when Kay lies to them about it. However, they do come back around when they realize their mistake and try to help and save Okja from his fate, and in the end sacrifice themselves to help Okja and Misha escape back to South Korea. The same thing happens within The Host over a longer period of time in the film, with the family of the protagonist trying to track down the daughter of the main character. back, and the grandfather dying to protect his two sons and daughter from the monster, and the aunt tracking down the monster back to its lair and getting hurt. Bong Joon-ho seems to have a theme for supporting characters in both films, sacrificing themselves for the children or what could possibly represent the future or the next generation of the world. In Okja, it's the ALF who sacrifice and save Misha and Okja, and in The Host, it's the daughter of the main character, Han Soo, who sacrifices herself to allow the boy, Seju, to survive to the end of the film. After several of the supporting characters sacrifice themselves to help the main character survive till the end of the film, Bong Joon-ho has both Misha and Park Gan-doo return home, the protagonists of each film. People who have worked with him and Bong Joon-ho himself have stated that he loves culture and he's a moviegoer first. Any director who's a moviegoer first must know of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, because it's almost in all great myths, stories, films, and even television. That exact formula follows a hero leaving his safety of his home or her home to go on a quest, that they'll encounter perils and trials along their journey, and finally be able to come home when the quest is done. It's in all great films and even books like George Lucas's Star Wars with Luke Skywalker, and in Homer's Odyssey with Odysseus, and even in like Lord of the Rings with Frodo. In Okja, Misha is finally able to come back to her farm after surviving this harrowing journey with trying to find her best friend through America to South Korea. She literally travels to New York, and it starts in Seoul, so she travels hundreds of miles. It's just an impressive journey by itself. And in The Host, Gandu has his own journey of going out and trying to find the monster and save his daughter, and then finally is able to come back to his home, or more like his shack on the edge of the river in Seoul, with his new son instead of his daughter, because his daughter dies in the end of the film. Even in John Woo's Snowpiercer, he has the final two characters leave the train and return to Earth after they thought they destroyed it decades ago. This just proves that Bong Joon-ho follows the traditional formula of the hero's journey and continues it on throughout any of his films. Each of Bong Joon-ho's films are laid with political and eco-friendly themes throughout the whole entire story. Both Okja and The Host have so many similarities, yet so many differences. Both use CGI expertly, I would say, explain political messages, and have a protagonist trying to save someone they love. Yet in The Host, the CGI is used to create this terrifying monster that eats people. The message is about the waste that humans create, and the hero is a male trying to save his daughter. In Okja, the CGI is used to generate a loving, cuddly creature that the audience falls in love with. The political message is about the meat industry, and the hero is a brave little girl trying to save her best friend. Both of these films are brilliantly directed and have amazing storylines because of the writer/director Bong Joon-ho. He knows how both to write a great story and how to execute it using modern film technology, and is able to enhance the script that he's already written using the camera. Personally, if I were you, I'd stop watching The Godfather or Old Boy by Spike Lee, which is actually a remake of a South Korean film, and go watch one of John Woo's masterpieces of Korean cinema. Personally, Korean cinema is where the next golden age of film will be.